All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 7 of the Unpopular Opinion podcast. So, we're going to talk about the way dealerships are right now, the way the dealerships are operating, the way things are going. It's rough right now, and I'm not seeing the Trump effect, which is not great. Tariffs are not going to be great on this industry. It's going to be hard. So, is it me, or does it seem like, as a flat rate tech, it's almost impossible to hit 40 hours for a pay period? It seems like, me personally, if I work nonstop, if I work all day, 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, 5-6 days a week, I'm still at 40 hours, or not quite 40, 30 hours, 40 hours. And I'm struggling to hit those hours. And it's not a great thing right now. I mean, the hours are not great. I've worked for 3 different brands, multiple car brands: Jaguar, Land Rover, Chrysler, GM, and it's been that way across all of the brands. I'll say Jaguar, Land Rover was the worst, and there's no hours to be made with Jaguar, Land Rover, in my opinion, and that's just the way it was in my experience with Jaguar, Land Rover. It's getting hard out here, you guys. I mean, it's getting really hard for trained technicians at these dealerships, especially if you have to be trained to do warranty work. I can honestly say I feel like warranty times are probably 99% of responsible for the warranty times. It's not easy. So I can remember maybe 10 years ago, maybe, I don't know, a little bit sooner than 10 years, I used to be able to when I worked for Chrysler, I used to be able to rebuild a 62T transmission for, 12 hours. Let's say 12 hours I could rebuild a 62T transmission under warranty. It was good money. I could make it in that 12 hours. And I think they lowered the time down to I think you could get 7 or 8 hours to remove, rebuild, and install this transmission. As long as you have a supporting story also, because they pick your stories apart in every single case. Unfortunately, with the way that they've dropped all of the warranty times, you just can't make money doing the warranty jobs. My most recent experience with Chrysler that I was really just unhappy about was the clutch recall on the Jeep Gladiators. And that recall consists of removing the transmission. It's a 4x4, so you remove the transmission, transfer case, exhaust, drive shafts, the flywheel and the clutch assembly. You replace the flywheel, the clutch assembly, you replace the throwout bearing, you lube everything up, you put all of that back together, and you program the IPC module and the PCM. And that recall pays a whopping 3.7 hours. So less than what 2 brake jobs would pay you. It's getting ridiculous. 3.7 hours, that's just crazy to me. And it seems I think all of them are getting recalled. So a very good amount of those Jeeps are getting recalled for that. When I did my time with GM, I did transmissions for GM. 6L80 transmissions. I could do those for 12 hours. You take it apart, clean everything, replace what you got to replace, put it all back together, do your flush, get your flow code, and you could get 12 hours or more depending on what you found and what you had to do to find that problem with your story. Now I think they dropped it down to 6 hours, and they don't pay you for cleaning and inspecting everything, which is why would I even waste my time at that point to clean and inspect everything? It's ridiculous. That's part of the job. When you're a transmission tech, you take everything apart, you clean and inspect everything. It takes time to do that, and I'm a flat rate tech, and that's how I get paid. So you remove this transmission, you clean and inspect everything, you replace what you got to replace, you put it all back together, drive it, you do your multi-point inspection, you do a video inspection, you inflate all the tires, all the tire pressures have to be good when they leave or the customer complains. These are all things that you don't get paid for. 6 hours is what it pays to do those transmissions now. And for a while with GM, they had straight time. It was called OLH. You could get OLH, but they locked that down right before, or right after COVID, I'm sorry. So OLH got locked down. It had you to have a manager sign off on any time that you needed additional, and there were penalties if the dealership couldn't prove that we needed that additional time, and they would completely deny the claim. So they made it really difficult for us to get paid for diagnostic time through GM. You know, these companies are hurting right now, and they don't want to pay to have our technicians work on anything. Unfortunately, I mean, it's just the way it is. And you know, I mean, that's just kind of like a symptom of the economy is not doing very well right now. You know, I know a lot of technicians, and I don't know any one of them that are doing well at this point in time. And it's not even just, it's not the dealerships themselves. So a lot of people get this confused. The dealerships are just like a contractor for the manufacturer. Okay, so they don't set the labor times. So like my dealership that I work at, they do not set my labor times as far as the warranty times go. We have a guideline that we can follow, that we have to follow to get paid for our repairs. And the manufacturer decides whether they're going to pay it or not, pending if we hit each, what do you want to call it? If we do everything that we're supposed to do for the claim, if we have our vehicle scan reports, if we've got, you know, our supporting documents, we have to take pictures sometimes. There are certain, you know, different types of criteria that we have to meet. It's funny because Chrysler just came out with, yeah, all right, so Chrysler just came out with, for the engine oil housings, okay, the oil filter housings, we all know they leak. Every single one of them leaks, and it's a huge problem. And every winter we get hit with a wave of engine oil filter housings. Well, just recently they came out with a service bulletin that we have to charge out engine oil dye on every single one of them, or they're going to deny the claim. It's just another loophole. They know that they're leaking, but if we don't have the little container of engine oil dye billed out on the RO, then it's an automatic rejection of the claim. And they do that, and then, I don't know, let's say 6 weeks from now, they're going to take it away so that if, you know, if you do have engine oil dye on there somewhere, I'm sure they're going to find a way to deny the claim for that. They do that a lot. They did the same thing for our intake gaskets. So for the longest time, the intake gaskets were one-time use only. So we're, you know, every single time we did an engine oil filter housing under warranty, you get upper and lower intake gaskets. You replace them every single time because they're one-time use only. And then they started denying the claims because we were replacing the intake gaskets. So they wanted us to start using the intake gaskets again. So then we started reusing the intake gaskets again, and then they started denying the claims because we weren't putting new intake gaskets on because they're one-time use only. So they keep changing things to find loopholes and ways for them to charge the dealerships back for these jobs because they're hurting. They're hurting for money, I know it. And unfortunately, you know, all you can do is abide by their standards and their rules and regulations, and then just keep doing the work. I remember doing the Takata airbags, the Takata airbag recalls. I made a lot of money on those recalls. Those recalls actually paid pretty well. That was way before COVID happened. I think that they were fairly priced as far as Chrysler goes. I never did any for GM. But I did some for Jaguar, Land Rover, and I did some for Chrysler. You know, I used to be able to get those things down to a science and make really good money doing them. But what I've seen now is a lot of dealerships, they have like recall specialists. And these guys are basically, you know, they're graduated from the lube rack. They don't make a whole lot of money on the labor hour. And they are in charge of doing all of, you know, the quick and easy recalls that us technicians used to be able to get done in between big jobs, and it would help us make money. Well, unfortunately, we don't get that anymore a lot of the time. I think I've done one airbag recall since I've been at my new dealership, which, you know, it is what it is. I'm a level 3 technician. I have to do what I have to do. But it's just, it sucks. Like, these are the types of things the dealerships are doing to get by. Like, you don't get services anymore. They try to keep the services in the lube rack because the labor hours are down. With those technicians, they make more money when somebody who makes less on the hour does the work. That's unfortunately how it works. So now I have a question. I have a question for all you guys. Is it really worth it to go through all your training and get a higher hourly rate? Are you currently getting showered in customer pay and services? Because if you are, I can personally guarantee it's probably going to end if you end up getting certified and or you get better pay. That's just how it is. Alright, so my experience in the dealership world, and I've seen it happen to other technicians as well, the service writers and managers are way more willing to shower you in gravy work when you have a lower hourly rate. And it's just what it is. Unfortunately, when you get all your training and things done, and then your hourly rate goes up, you'll notice that you're not going to get those quick services in between big jobs, and they're going to be more willing to give them to the lube rack instead of you. Unfortunately, when you get a raise on your hourly rate, you cut into their gross profit. So it costs more for them to pay you to do the job than what it did before. And that's an easy way for you to tell around how much you make compared to your coworkers, because if they're not willing to give you the jobs that they were giving you before, that means that your hourly rate has gone up too much. I've been there. Not at my current job, but most of the other jobs that I've been at, anytime I've gotten an hourly raise, they basically take away all of my gravy work because it costs too much for me to do those. Let's see. Now here's the dark side about this. They're not going to openly tell you, hey, you make too much money, I'm not going to pay you for this job because you're cutting into my gross profit. They're going to gaslight you, and they're going to make you think that they're just not a problem, kind of like an avoidant person would do. Unfortunately, they won't tell you, and they're going to make you feel crazy, and then you're going to attack them. You're going to want answers as to why you're not getting the same work that you used to get. And unfortunately, by the time that you actually get them to come out and say it, you're probably on your way out the door, because that's happened to me. It did happen to me. I had a boss that I worked for that it was like a light switch. This guy shut off my gravy train and would not help me out with my hours at all after I got a raise. Like, he voluntarily gave me a raise, and then his service writers and his service manager would not give me any gravy work at all whatsoever. And it was all warranty. All the work that I was getting was warranty. I did all the warranty transmissions. But they were giving my CP transmissions to other technicians, like just the quick installs. It was crazy. It was unreal. And unfortunately, that's just the way that the business is operating currently, because the dealerships are doing whatever they can to make the most profit that they can. And that's kind of like a dirty way of doing it, you know? It's ridiculous. This rain is getting to be too much. There's a lot of rain. It's getting avoidance even in management. Yeah, there you go. Collision avoidance even in management. But the thing is, like, they'll gaslight you into thinking everything's okay, and they'll tell you anything you want to hear to get you to go away, and they tell you to stay in your lane and not to worry about what's happening, but your paycheck has changed. Like, that's the thing. Your paycheck has changed, and it's ridiculous. And instead of getting a straight answer about what's going on and why my paycheck has changed, they just tell you to stay in your lane, be quiet. They threaten your job. I had one guy threaten my job, who's a really good friend of mine, actually. He threatened to fire me because I kept asking, like, what was going on. And then I started investigating ROs and repair orders, and, like, I wasn't getting the jobs that I was recommending. Like, I would recommend a bunch of services and breaks on things, and they would leave, and then when they came back, they would have the guys that got paid less than I did per hour do those jobs. And then I would catch them, and when I caught them, they would get mad at me. And I'm like, I fucking recommended that job, guys. That is my job. You were literally taking money out of my paycheck and hurting me. I'm trying to get this so that it works, so I can look at both you guys. It was ridiculous. Now, I want to tell everybody about an experience that I had at Mark Wahlberg Chevrolet in Columbus, Ohio. I worked there several times on and off for about 5 years. And for a while, I was the only transmission tech there. A lot of my experiences have come from there because there was a lot of crazy things that happened there. And it was just crazy. I mean, it was an interesting experience. There was a lot of really crappy people that I ended up working with. And I want to tell you guys about one particular experience that drove me out of there permanently, basically. So, I had a really good relationship with my boss. He was a great guy. His name, well, I'm not going to tell you his name. We'll call him B. So B was a great dude. We were really tight. I knew him for about 5 or 6 years. And up until this past year in January, that was kind of when things got hard at that dealership and the work slowed down to the point where we weren't even getting warranty work coming in. He let me go home with an 8-hour paycheck for 2 weeks. All right, so I worked an entire 2-week period. I was there Monday through Friday for 8 hours a day. And for that 2-week period, I brought home 8 hours. I had nothing to do. And at that time, I was driving over an hour one way to work every single day. You know, so I mean, I'm spending gas money to go to this place. And a lot of the time, what he would do, if he was going to guarantee your paycheck, he would give you 30 hours at $10 less on the hour than what you made. And that's kind of crappy, but that's better than 8 hours for 2 weeks. And he didn't do that for me. So I got into an argument with him. And I went to his boss. I wrote a letter, told them about what was going on, and then I quit that day on the spot. I was done. Because it had gotten to the point where we had so many meetings that he looked me in the face and he was like, Dustin, I feel like I want to fire you. And I'm like, fire me. Go ahead, fire me. I dare you. I'm like, please fire me. I will file for unemployment so fast it's not even funny. And he was like, I don't know, we just got to figure out why you're doing this. I'm like, because I'm not making money and I drive over an hour every single day to get here. So what are you going to do about it? I have no work. I need help. Help me, help me. Because not only was I the only transmission tech there, but I fixed every problem car they had. And I was also still with Chrysler. We had a Chrysler store in Michigan. So my SID was still active and I did all of their Chrysler stuff. They were bringing me Chrysler vehicles from Michigan to Ohio from their dealership, problem cars, and having me fix them under warranty. And I did all their Chrysler used cars. I did all their transmissions. I did it all. I rebuilt transmissions using aftermarket parts for Chryslers for their used cars. It was crazy. I did so much for that place. And then they turned their back on me basically and let me sink. That's what they did. I almost lost my house because of it. So yeah, I was angry. I was very angry because I did a lot for that place. So one thing that I really hated about that place is they had a service writer technician combo. They were husband and wife. Okay, so the wife was the service writer, the husband was a technician. And they would bypass dispatch. And nobody could say anything about it because they produced. Okay, and that's fine. But what they did was they didn't go by the rules of the dealership. They did exactly what they wanted to do. They picked and chose what they wanted, what jobs they wanted, and they didn't give a shit about anybody else in the shop. And my boss allowed it because they were making him money. So these people, they were executives of PNC Bank. And I was pretty productive. And when I started digging into the things that they were doing and how they were bypassing dispatch and looking at the ROs and all the money that I was losing because they were taking my CP jobs, my CP transmission jobs, and giving me all the warranty jobs, you know, I was mad about it. So I started investigating. I recorded repair order numbers. Like, I went back and I had proof. I went to everybody with my proof. I presented it, and my boss threatened my job. So what these people did to me was unspeakable, really. Like, this is one thing that happened to me that I will never forget, and I will never forgive anybody for doing. I had just rebuilt a transmission, and I had left the dealership with my apprentice in the passenger seat, and we were driving. Okay, and we pulled out of the dealership. I started driving this car. This husband and wife technician combo, they were going home for the day. I was staying late because I needed to get things done and I needed money. And they saw me leave, and we were in traffic together, and this guy ran me off the road while I was in a customer's car. And they saw me. Like, they saw me, they pushed me off the side of the road, let me go off to the side of the road, and they just continued on their way. I went back to the dealership, I talked to my boss about it, and his answer to everything that I told him was, you know what? There's nothing I can do about it. You guys were off company property. I didn't see it. I can't do anything about it. I was like, oh, really? That's convenient. So the next day I confronted the husband. I was like, you know, hey, I should have stopped and beat your ass in traffic. And he goes, I wish you would have. I'm like, so you're admitting that you ran me off there? He's like, yeah, I fucking did it. What about it? And I'm like, oh, all right then. I see where we stand, motherfucker. You know, I mean, that's just how it was. I can't believe I had a teenager with me. Okay, this guy ran me off the road with a teenager in the car. And that's what you get when you stand up for yourself in a dealership and you see things happening that shouldn't be happening, and you just want to be treated fairly. That's what I want. I wanted to be treated fairly. I worked hard for that place. I have a family that I support just like anybody else, and I do it the right way every single day because I have morals. I have a moral compass, and I don't care about anybody that does things the wrong way, that to try to fuck people over on purpose. I don't do that. These people were executives of PNC Bank, and that is Pick and Choose Bank, if anybody doesn't know what that is. So unfortunately, you know, you run into people like that, and I've had other instances of people doing things like that to me. I worked at another dealership where, you know, I was a high hour turner. I worked very hard. I was a high hour turner, and this other guy was a high hour turner. We were both competing for like the number one spot, okay, at this dealership. And this guy literally took money out of my pocket. I had some PDIs that I was going to do. I was going to come in on a Saturday and do them. And this guy had a key to the shop. He would come in at 3 in the morning, and he would stay till 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Like, this guy he did nothing but work. And I came in Saturday morning at 7 o'clock, and the PDIs that I was going to do were gone off my toolbox. One of them was in his bay when I got there. And I asked him about it. I'm like, hey, what's going on with this PDI? And he goes, oh, you know, don't worry about it. I'll talk to the manager. I'm like, no, that was my PDI. Why do you have my PDI? And eventually what had happened was he just took it off my toolbox and did it. Just because he could. Because he's a greedy motherfucker. So, we ended up having a meeting. And in this meeting, this guy, like, I brought it up to the manager. I talked to everybody, but I'm like, so we need to talk about people taking work off of other people's toolboxes, because I was angry about it. I had just had a baby. I was, you know, trying to get my family established, and I don't like being messed with. And this guy, he goes, yeah, I fucking took the PDI off your toolbox. What are we going to do about it? And I got up, and I picked him up by his neck, and I held him against the wall, and I was going to watch the life come out of this guy. But then I stopped. I was going to kill him. I'm like, it's not worth it. But it took 4 people to get me off of him, and the following week he got beat up by somebody else in the parking lot. So I shook that guy's hand when he got walked out in handcuffs. Because fuck that guy. I hated that guy. I really did. Unfortunately, those are the different things that you run into when you are a high turner at a dealership. You have other people that just try to ruin you. Especially if you have morals. Like if you're a morally good person, you do things by the books, and you're trying your best to just be the best you can, there's always going to be someone to try to knock you down. Unfortunately, it's just how life is. It's more or less how you react to it that is the important part. You can't let these people win. That's for sure. You don't let people win. With all this being said, I can honestly say that I've earned my ranks amongst some of the best technicians out there. I'm proud of that, and I've diagnosed and repaired some of the most complex and diabolical electrical issues that I've ever seen, and I'm proud of that. I know my worth, and I know that when I started at a new dealership, I don't have to talk about my abilities. I let my abilities talk for me. I stay quiet, I do my work, and any job that they give me until a problem arises, because that's when it matters. If you're constantly a greasy wheel and they keep greasing you, eventually that the squeaky wheel is going to get replaced. And I'm not that person. Let's see. So now, one thing that really that really kills me sometimes is every shop has a boomerang. Okay, everybody has a guy they call boomerang, right? And boomerang is probably a high hour turner, but has a very high comeback rate. And the dealership isn't willing to get rid of him because he turns a lot of hours. And what they do is they use guys like me to fix his comebacks. So they're willing to put up with the amount of comebacks that this guy has because of the hours that he turns. And it's not fair, because then guys like me can't make any money off of comebacks all day long, So like right now I've got a guarantee, but I'm constantly fixing other people's problems and not getting paid for it. So really I'm unable to flag more than the 40 hours that I'm being paid. While that guy over there is getting paid God knows what to keep messing these cars up, I am very detail oriented, and I care about the quality of the repairs that I do, because the way that I see it is somebody else is going to see this repair. Somebody else is going to take this car. Just because I fixed it this one time doesn't mean that it's not going to be fixed again. And somebody's going to look at that, and they're going to see what I did. And I want them to be like, you know what? This car was no doubtably repaired the best that it could have been at that time. I don't feel like people really take pride in repairing vehicles anymore, and it makes me very sad. I see it now. I work with some people that aren't very good at what they do. They're good at turning hours. They come in early, they stay late, they work hard, but as far as repairing the vehicles, they've not done a very good job, unfortunately. Yeah, every single day. And I feel like those are the cars that I'm getting. Like, I'm getting cars that other people have repaired all the time. And I have the headache of having to fix those cars. And I don't mind that. I don't mind fixing the cars, but I want to be paid for my time as a technician, right? Because that's what I do. I go to work to make money. That's how it works. Whether I'm fixing somebody's comeback or not, I should be paid for my time. Absolutely, 100%. Okay. So let's talk about the need for more automotive technicians in our industry. We need more technicians. There is a national technician shortage. We need technicians in all aspects of this industry. We need good technicians. And unfortunately, I think that what's driving people from becoming a technician is the pay, right? I just complained for 20 minutes about how bad the pay is in this industry, but we need to address that if we want more people. My bosses, every dealership that I've ever worked at, are complaining about not being able to hire technicians. Probably a reason for that, right, guys? I mean, look at the numbers, look at the statistics. Right now, they're hiring anybody and everybody off of the street who says that they're a mechanic and they can fix cars, because they need people. They need bodies turning hours. But these bodies turning hours are not doing a very good job with the quality of their repairs, and that's biting them. So what do we do to fix it? You know, I mean, what's the answer? Because unfortunately, on the flip side of that, there are a lot of people out there that take advantage. They take advantage of an hourly pay and they don't produce, and they sit on their ass all day. You know, there's got to be some sort of middle ground for fixing the automotive technician pay, right? There's something somewhere. I believe that it's probably a combination of a guarantee plus some sort of commission after X amount of hours turned. That would be ideal, I think, for me. So that at least I know every single week that I'm working, I'm going to make this much money. I would say right now, especially with the way the economy is, I would say that just strictly flat rate, there's just way too much risk and too many variables that are not in my control as a flat rate technician. You know, if you're working at a dealership and you have a weak service department, as far as like your parts department is weak. Okay, let's say you've got some parts people that don't know their job, they don't know how to look up things, they always pull the wrong parts, they're always giving you the wrong parts, there's always a reason why parts aren't getting ordered. That's going to cost you money, and that has nothing to do with my efficiency whatsoever. None. I have no control over the parts department as a technician, but it affects my pay. It affects my efficiency and my numbers. Same thing could be said with the service writers, okay? And this is a huge deal. Your service writers are so incredibly important, and I think it's probably the most overlooked portion of the dealership that there is right now. Okay, so your service writers are the first point of contact for every single customer that comes into the door. Okay, so that relationship with that customer is formed right then and there, and that is dependent on how well your service writer can do their job. Okay, that is asking questions on write-up, you know, getting an accurate description so that the technician can diagnose things accordingly. I've had some really trash write-ups here in the past few years and it's consistent. Like, there are some people, they just don't ask questions. Engine's making a noise. Well, okay, let's dive into this. What kind of noise is this engine making? When does it happen? How often does it happen? You know, does it change with a certain time of day or where you're driving? How long is your commute? Like, there are a lot of different variables for a noise. A lot of different questions that could be asked that don't get asked by our service writers. And then there's another aspect of this, okay? So I have had service writers that will goodwill every single repair if they can. They will do whatever it takes to get a repair goodwill so that they can make sure that this customer makes a good survey. Okay, the surveys are trash. They are garbage. I hate the survey system. I hate that these service writers are reliant on the surveys, because that is also not in our control. You could do everything for this customer, you could get things goodwilled, and then you get a bad survey, and all of a sudden the managers are up your butt. Like, why did we get a bad survey for this? Nothing you can do about it. But like I said, service writers are the first point of contact. They are the only point of contact throughout the entire repair process, and they are responsible for communicating clearly with the customer and making sure that the customer understands what they're getting into. And unfortunately, I feel like there's a major lack of training with the service writers, you know, nationwide. Like, you could talk about a technician shortage all day long, but there's a service writer shortage, in my opinion. You can't find people that do this job well. There are very few of them. And a lot of the ones that you do find are incompetent or greedy, and they use really shady sales tactics. You know, we could talk about there's this guy, my very first automotive job was Firestone Complete Auto Care. And I worked with a guy, his name was Richard. And Richard could sell anybody anything. Okay, I loved this guy. But he used some shady sales tactics. We were located across from the mall where I live, back when the mall was still open and people would go there. They'd drop their cars off and go walk around the mall until the car was done. If we had, like, let's say I was trying to sell, I remember I was selling brakes on one. Okay, and he couldn't get a hold of the customer on their phone. So he walked over to the mall, found them in the mall, and he told them, if you guys don't do these brakes, you're going to crash and die. And they bought those brakes. And I was like, Richard, you can't say that. You can't tell people that they're gonna die. He goes, did I sell the job? And I'm like, I mean, yes, you did, but morally, they could have, they weren't that bad. But kudos, you got your bonus or whatever the hell you get from selling brakes at Firestone. You meet some really interesting people in the automotive industry. I met some people that would poop their pants on purpose so that they can go home early. I promise it wasn't me. And then one time, one guy that I knew, he pooped his pants so that he could go home early. And I was like, hey man, you pooped your pants. And he goes, oh yeah, I guess I should go finish what I sharted. And I'm like, bro, come on. That's disgusting. So anyway, I mean, there are so many different variables that account towards like a technician's productivity. And I feel like the technician's productivity is the only aspect of this that's actually being measured. So like my productivity is solely reliant on a good write-up and a good parts department and a service writer that is prompt and getting back to the customer and communicating what's going on with their vehicle within a timely manner. And unfortunately, you don't get all of those, so that will indefinitely impact your technician productivity. Is there any way that I can change that? Absolutely not. I get a car, I diagnose the car, I put my estimate in, and then it's out of my hands. I'm waiting on my team to pick up their ball and do what they're supposed to do. And unfortunately, a lot of times the ball's dropped in a lot of different areas. And when it is dropped, it makes all of us look bad and it costs all of us money. And I know this isn't true, but I feel like the technician is punished for this. I have another example of something in this automotive industry that I really hate and I want to talk about because I think it's a huge problem right now, especially. So I'll give you another good example of an issue in the industry, and it is the extended aftermarket warranty company. So the aftermarket extended warranty companies are garbage, in my opinion. Especially when you have like a dealership that owns the company and they still decline all of these repairs that we're trying to get covered. I've had so many bad experiences with the warranty companies. It's just insane to me. I'll give you a good example of one that I had recently. It was a Jeep Renegade with a right rear door speaker issue. And we had... So you'll get a message on the dash that says the right rear door speaker. I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was like there was an issue with the right rear door speaker. There's a service bulletin for that. And basically you have like a connection issue between the connector on the speaker and the speaker itself and the wiring and everything. It's not something that you can physically see. It is just like a pin fit issue. And what the service bulletin has you do is it has you replace the door speaker and the door harness to fix the issue. So I made my estimate. I returned it to the service writer to be sold. The customer had an extended warranty, and the extended warranty company wanted me to disassemble the door so that I could find the failure. And I'm like, okay, but who's paying for that? Okay, so you have your customer, and you have your extended warranty company, and then you have the dealership. We're in a triangle right now, okay? And all of us are trying to figure out who's going to pay for me to diagnose this further. And what should happen is it should go to the customer. The customer has to approve disassembly and diagnostic time. And then after that, if the repair is covered, then the warranty company will take over the diagnostic time. Usually that's how it works. But what happened this time was, I told my service writer we need additional time to tear down the door so that I can find the failure and take pictures. And he said, well, who's going to pay for that? And I was like, well, typically, you have to get diagnostic time from the customer. And then after that, if it's covered, the warranty company will cover it usually. Like, I'm explaining this to a service writer who should know this. And he goes, okay, all right, I'll call the customer. He called the customer. She said she didn't feel like she wanted to pay for that. She shouldn't have to pay for that. Unfortunately, she wasn't going to pay for that. And I'm like, well, then I guess I'm going to ship this car. And he goes, well, just take it apart and find it, and I'll get it covered. And I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way, because what if the company doesn't cover it? Because then I just took all this stuff apart for free, and then you can't guarantee that I'm going to get paid for doing it. So I told him no, and then I went to my shop supervisor, and I was like, hey, man, this is what happened. This is what he wants me to do. I told him no because I'm not going to get paid. And he's like, I agree with you. We're not doing that. We need to contact the customer and get them to approve diag. So what ended up happening was, because I said no and I was not going to budge on this, we ended up sending the service bulletin to the warranty company, and they ended up approving it. But before they approved it, they wanted to know exactly what the failure was. It was a pin fit issue. I can't physically show you the pin fit issue, not unless, I can make a video or something, but they wanted pictures of the failure, and I couldn't get pictures of this failure, unfortunately. And if I had gone through with taking this whole thing apart, I could almost promise you that I wasn't going to get paid for any additional diag. And those are the different types of things that, you do that 3 or 4 times a day, and guess how much diag you're out every single day. You're not getting paid to take these cars apart. There's no additional diag for you to take these cars apart, and you just wasted a bunch of time. And then you get your timesheet at the end of the week, and they're like, Dustin, why didn't you hit 30 hours this week? Well, maybe because I'm working for free 30% of the time. Makes sense? Makes sense to me, right? Yeah, we do it all the time. We do it all the time. My favorite line I get from people is, I'll get you on the next one if you do this for me. What do you mean, you'll get me on the next one? Like, how long is it going to be for that? Like, give me $10. How about that? Just hand me a $10 bill, and we'll call it even. I don't know. It's insane. It's crazy. Crazy sauce. If you didn't roll out of bed and make 10 hours before 10, you were doing something wrong. Yeah, I feel that. That was always the goal, 10 hours before 10 o'clock. I used to be able to do that. I remember I used to be able to flag 22 hours a day. I was rocking it. I did sacrifice my health back then, though. I was eating a lot of fast food. I wasn't healthy at all. But I was in my 20s. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Let me finish this. So anyway, it's extremely important to have a good support system when you work at a dealership. There are a lot of different variables that affect technician effectiveness and our effective labor rate and how many hours we turn, and there are just things that are not in our control. That is it for the podcast for today. Thank you for joining in. If you guys could like, subscribe, and share, leave some comments, maybe some ideas for my next podcast. I would love to continue this conversation with everybody. Get a hold of me, shoot me a message, whatever you want to do. I'll catch you on the next one.